In the farthest corner of Blackstone Forest stood a cabin that most people in town believed was abandoned. But inside it lived a man named Elias Ward, a man who had disappeared from society a full decade ago. Elias had once been a familiar face in the busy city, a brilliant architect with a future as bright as the skylines he designed. But life had a way of breaking even the strongest foundations. The sudden death of his fiancée shattered him beyond repair, pushing him into a silence so deep that he fled to the forest, choosing the company of trees over people. For 10 years he followed a ritual that became as predictable as the turning seasons. Waking before sunrise, chopping wood, fishing by the lake, repairing the cabin piece by piece, and ending his night staring at a single picture frame, a photograph of Amelia, the woman he once planned a life with. Loneliness had stopped hurting after year 4. After year 6, it simply became a part of him. By year 10, it was all he knew. The forest accepted him. The wind whispered to him like an old companion, and the world outside faded into something distant and unimportant. But everything changed on a stormy night when the sky turned black as ink and thunder cracked like the earth itself was splitting open. Rain fell in violent sheets drumming against the roof of the cabin, and Elias sat near the fireplace sharpening a knife, unaware that the storm was carrying something. Someone toward him. It was near midnight when he heard it, a faint, irregular thudding against his wooden porch. At first he thought it was a tree branch tossed around by the wind, but then came another sound, a weak, strained whimper. His muscles stiffened. No one ever came this deep into the forest. No one knew he lived here. Cautious but curious, he grabbed his lantern and opened the door, and what he saw made his breath catch in his throat. A woman, drenched head to toe in a torn white wedding dress, collapsed on his porch like a ghost washed out of the storm. Her mascara streaked down her cheeks, her veil tangled in branches, her hands scraped and bleeding. She looked like she had run through hell itself. For the first time in 10 years, Elias felt something he had forgotten, alarm mixed with responsibility. He crouched beside her, touched her neck, and felt the faint flutter of a pulse. Hey, can you hear me?" he urged, his voice rusty from years of silence. Her lips trembled. She whispered only one word before passing out completely. "Help." Elias carried her inside, laying her near the fire as the storm raged like a beast outside. The soaked wedding dress clung to her skin, and the broken jewelry hanging from her neck told a story he did not yet understand. His heart pounded with questions he hadn't felt in years. Who was she? Why was she running into a forest in a wedding dress? And who or what was she running from? He didn't know it yet. But this moment was the beginning of the end of his quiet life, because the night he opened that door, he let more than a stranger inside. He let fate step in. And fate had been waiting a long time. Elias didn't sleep that night. Instead, he watched the unconscious bride lying near his fire. As the storm outside turned the world into a roaring blur of wind and water, every now and then she twitched as if trapped in a nightmare she couldn't escape. He brought blankets, warm broth, and sat by the edge of the room, unsure whether to keep his distance or rush to her side. Around dawn, her fingers moved, gripping the blanket like she was afraid it would vanish. She gasped awake, sitting upright so quickly that Elias nearly dropped the cup he was holding. Her eyes darted wildly around the cabin until they landed on him. "Where am I?" she whispered, her voice trembling like broken glass. "Safe," Elias replied gently. "You're safe here." But she shook her head violently. No one is safe. Not if he finds me." Elias stiffened. "Who?" Her eyes filled with terror. "My husband." Elias blinked. "Your husband?" She nodded, tears spilling. "I ran from my own wedding. I had to." Elias stared at her wedding dress, mud-stained, ripped, and soaked. She looked like she'd crawled through the forest for miles. She explained everything in broken fragments. How her marriage had been arranged. How the groom she was forced to accept hid a violent, monstrous nature beneath his charming exterior. How he had sworn she would never escape him alive. On the day of the wedding, she discovered a truth so horrifying that she ran into the dark woods, barefoot, terrified, desperate for anyone who could help her. Elias listened in silence, something stirring inside him, anger he hadn't felt in years, protective instincts he thought had died with his fiancée. "He's not going to find you here," Elias said. She looked at him with pleading eyes. "You don't understand. He always finds me." The wind outside howled again, but this time it carried something else, a faint, distant echo of footsteps crunching through wet leaves. Elias's chest tightened. No one came here. No one could possibly know, except someone looking. The bride, now shivering, grabbed his arm. Please, don't let him take me back. Elias stood up slowly, something sharp and unyielding awakening inside him. For 10 years he had lived in silence, running from his own pain. But now a stranger, broken, terrified, alone, had collapsed on his porch, and fate was forcing him to face a truth he had long avoided. The world would always find you, even when you hid from it. And sometimes someone else needed saving even more than you did. Elias stepped toward the door, lantern in hand. He won't touch you, he said firmly. Not while I'm alive. Lightning flashed, illuminating a shadow moving between the trees. The bride gasped. Elias tightened his grip on the doorknob. The life he had buried was waking up again, and he didn't know whether this night would bring redemption or destruction. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. The man she feared had just entered the forest.